The cafeteria fell silent in a single heartbeat. The crash of a lunch tray echoed like a gunshot, followed by a sharp grunt of pain. All eyes snapped toward the corner table where 3 seniors had cornered the new kid, thin, quiet, head always down. One of them laughed as he drove his knee straight into the boy's face. Blood sprayed across the floor. The crowd gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh no, they picked the wrong guy." His name was Daniel Reyes. He had just transferred to Ridgewood High, and from day one, he carried himself differently, quiet, reserved, almost too calm. To most kids, that silence looked like weakness. To the bullies, it looked like opportunity. But Daniel's silence was not weakness, it was the weight of a past that none of them could imagine. Daniel's family had moved after his father, a decorated army sergeant, passed away in an accident overseas. The grief hollowed his home. His mother worked 2 jobs, his younger sister cried herself to sleep, and Daniel carried the invisible responsibility of protecting them both. He had spent years training in mixed martial arts, partly because his father taught him discipline, partly because he needed an outlet for the anger boiling inside him. Fighting, to him, wasn't sport. It was survival. But no one at Ridgewood knew that. To them, he was just the quiet new kid with a second-hand backpack and eyes that looked too tired for his age. The bullies saw him as easy prey. They shoved him in the halls, tripped him on the stairs, whispered things about his father, not knowing the pain those words carried. Daniel took it all, never fighting back. He remembered his father's voice, "Control is power. Real strength is knowing when not to use it." So he let their words bruise him deeper than their fists ever could. Until that day in the cafeteria. When the knee hit his face, Daniel staggered back, blood dripping from his nose. The bullies laughed louder, thinking they had broken him. But when Daniel lifted his head, his eyes were no longer tired, they burned. The silence in the room thickened. He stood tall, wiped the blood with the back of his hand, and whispered, "Big mistake." The first bully lunged at him, but Daniel sidestepped smoothly, sending him sprawling across the table with a single throw. Gasps erupted. The second swung his fist, wild and sloppy, but Daniel's training took over. He caught the punch midair, twisted, and dropped him to the floor in seconds. The third, the biggest, charged with rage, but Daniel ducked low, driving his shoulder into his chest and slamming him against the wall so hard the windows rattled. The room exploded with chaos, students screaming, phones recording, trays clattering. But Daniel didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He stood over the bullies, chest heaving, eyes steady. "I didn't want this," he said, voice calm but sharp as steel. "But I'm done letting people think they can break me." For the first time, the bullies looked small, stripped of their power, exposed as cowards. Teachers rushed in, dragging Daniel to the office. Everyone expected suspension. Some even whispered expulsion. But the truth unraveled quickly. The recordings showed everything: the bullying, the knee to his face, the way Daniel defended himself without crossing the line into cruelty. The principal, a stern man with a history of turning a blind eye, was forced to face the truth. Daniel wasn't the aggressor. He was a survivor. But the fight didn't end in the office. The real battle came after, the whispers in the halls, the stares from classmates who didn't know if they should fear him or respect him. Daniel wrestled with guilt too. His father's words haunted him. Had he lost control, or had he finally stood up for himself? Nights were restless. His knuckles ached more from the weight of doubt than the fight itself. Yet slowly, something shifted. A freshman he'd never spoken to stopped him in the hallway, eyes wide. "Thanks," the boy said quietly. "They used to pick on me too." Then another student, a girl who always ate lunch alone, sat next to him one day without a word. Respect grew, not out of fear, but recognition. Daniel had shown everyone that even the quiet ones carried storms inside them. The bullies. They changed too. Not overnight, but enough. Humiliation has a way of breaking arrogance. 2 of them stopped tormenting kids altogether. The biggest one, weeks later, even muttered an apology, awkward, clumsy, but real. Daniel never sought revenge. He sought peace. But peace, he learned, sometimes requires standing up, bleeding if you must, to show that you cannot be broken. By the end of the year, Daniel wasn't the quiet kid anymore. He wasn't feared or worshipped, he was respected. More than that, he became a reminder to everyone, you never know what battles someone is already fighting. The strongest people often hide the deepest scars. And as he walked across that stage on graduation day years later, he heard his father's voice in his heart again. This time, not as a warning, but as a truth, real strength isn't just knowing when not to fight. It's knowing when you must.